we're going to dive in. Welcome to today's call.
That is that the previous administration.
All right. And if you've got background noise, go ahead and mute yourself. All right. So happy Thursday, everyone. Happy Thursday. Today, the last group call we had, we looked at vision. We talked about doing our be, do, have, or the 101 wishes. If you have that, now would be a great time to pull it up. If this is the first time you're jumping on the call, don't worry about it. We'll introduce that as well. I want everybody to go ahead in your hub, and I'm going to share my screen with this as well. But we're going to actively use today as a bit of a workshop, in the sense that we're going to go ahead and, if we haven't, we're going to start it. If we have, we'll go ahead and do the, we're going to go ahead and do the work, right? So that we can go, okay, this is what this looks like. So in your hub, if you'll go to your reality and vision, and then I'm going to share my screen so that we're all looking at the same piece. But I really want you to go ahead and grab yours. If you're not sure where it is, or you have questions, raise your hand or come off mute and I'll walk you through it. Okay. All right. So the place to find this. So again, I'll go back to access your hub. That's going to be the very first piece. So go to the hub that you have, that we've emailed you. And then it's typically on the bottom of everybody's. It's going to say that your future from vision to reality. All right. Does everybody else have that piece?
Olivia?
Yes.
This is Jean. I cannot get into it. I just requested access.
Okay,
I'll
perfect.
follow along.
Okay, and give us about 2 seconds and mine will grant you access to that.
Perfect.
Yes. Okay, awesome.
I don't know that I'm in the right area.
Okay.
Crystal,
Where?
my room. Do you want to come to my room?
Yeah, I can come to your room, but there's a bunch of us out here that don't get it. Steph, should we just do this after?
Yeah, this is just follow along with her screen.
Okay.
Yeah, if you'll follow along, because a lot of what we're going to do, yeah, if you follow along, you don't have to have that, since we are going to have this screen up. We are recording this as well. Okay. So we've got this. Now, many of you have already filled this piece out, so I'm not going to go into depth around this. If you haven't, this is part of us creating that vision so that we know what I'm doing today is leading me in the right direction. I always think about the 7 habits of highly successful people. If we're walking through a forest, we don't know if we're headed in the right direction, right? But if somebody can get to the top of the trees and look out, and with their telling us where to go, we can make sure we're going in the right direction. So this is what that's going to help us with. So if you haven't already, I'm going to have you fill out this page. The directions and the instructions are at the bottom. All right. So if you haven't, that's going to be your homework piece for this week. Now, what we're going to do today, when we look at and if anybody that hasn't read the 12-week year, that's something I'm definitely going to highly suggest that you grab, because that's going to coincide with what we're working on and how we're utilizing this piece. So in order to set up your 12-week year, you've got to establish specific 12-week goals, and then we're going to build a 12-week tactical plan to achieve them. So we start with the vision as our guide to set those specific goals. On the second tab here, we have simple GPS. It's basically a sample of our 12-week goal. So this is what I'm talking about as far as us going ahead and setting our goal. So if you don't have access to this, you can just write your goal down. I want you to think about, so April 4th, right? That's when our 12-week begins, April 4th through, I think it's June 26th. That's the piece that we're looking at. We want to identify, and less is always more. Your plan is going to be focused on a few goals, the critical areas where you would like to improve right away and to make progress towards your vision. Now, this is an example, right? It might be listings taken. It might be, I need to hire an admin. What we want you to be thinking about is that goal. That's where we want to be at the end of 12 weeks. Okay. Once we know where we want to be at the end of 12 weeks, we're going to actually be able to go, okay, what are the key actions or tactics that's going to get me there? When do those need to be done? Because we're going to have some things it's a one-time, some things that are weekly, some things that are going to happen twice a month, that type of a thing. So, and then your tactics describe the actions you're going to need to accomplish that goal. So what I want everybody to do is go ahead and whether you type it in there or you handwrite it, what is the 1 to 3 goals that you're looking to accomplish in the next 12 weeks? Go ahead and write that down. Now, and I'm sorry, I realized I just missed a critical piece of sharing this. This is the example. If you click on that next tab, that's the blank one. So again, you can write it there or you can handwrite it. But what are your 1 to 3 goals for that period?
Hey, Olivia,
Yes, sir.
this is Alex, and I'm in my hub and I found something that's, I think it's your future, your goals, or whatever, but it doesn't look like your form. I can't find anything that says your future from vision to reality.
Okay. At the very bottom of, once you click on that, your future vision to reality.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody else, you keep working on your goals. Do you see this page?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I do. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay. At the very bottom, there's tabs. It's that second tab. It's going to be the example and the.
Okay, so let me get to tabs. I don't see any tabs at the bottom of this here. I see some directions.
Make sure your screen is open at the widest that it can be. Otherwise, you may not see them.
Do they say simple GPS sample,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
So I want to go to the simple GPS sample or?
Yeah, the sample is the one that I had on the screen that just gave an example. You want to go ahead and go to the simple GPS and put in your goals.
Okay, now I'm looking at what you were looking at.
All right, perfect.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, and then so I'd love to hear from you guys. What is somebody that's already filled in their goals? What did you write? What is the goal?
I wrote, I'd like to have 4 more listings by then.
Okay. So your end result is 4 listings.
Yes, at least.
Okay. So, all right. So that's a very clear end result, right? Because the 12-week goal, this is where you want to be at the end of 12 weeks. It links your vision and represents the progress you intend to make moving forward. All right. Who else? your end result? I see you. I can just start calling names.
So you want what our end result is? Because
Yeah.
I don't have this in front of me, but I have my top 3 goals that I want.
Okay, that's the end result. There's the top
Okay.
3. So what are your top 3 goals?
So my top 3 is, my goal was 2 transactions a month and I'm behind. So I need to, by the end of June, be at a total of 12 transactions by that time. And then I want to be in the office every day at 8:30 in the morning, because that gives me more time in the morning to do the things that I need to start on instead of starting at 9:30. And then I've taken on a conversation with my team owner about becoming a team lead. And I want to get all of that in line as to what that looks like, and basically have that all in line and understood, and have it where it's second nature by the end of June, but basically sooner than that. But, working in that 12 weeks, these are my 3 top goals.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that. And I want everybody to think of this. So 12 transactions, that's right. So my question would be, because we want to make sure, right, we're very specific. So and this is so that I'm talking to her, but this is for everybody, right? When we think about 12 transactions, is that your gap or in addition to? So if we just said from April 4th to that June date of 12 weeks, are we looking for 12 pendings? Are we looking for 12 pieces of business? Like, it's okay if it's a listing, a pending, or a buyer agreement signed? Let's get really clear on what 12 transactions mean.
It's closed transactions.
Okay. Now, so perfect. Now 12 closed transactions. Now keep in mind, and again, this is for everybody. There's no right or wrong. And I appreciate you letting us do this with you. Think of it as, that means we only have, are you experiencing about a 30-day close?
Yes.
Okay. That means we've got April and May to put them under contract. So 6 pendings a month. What was the most you've pended in the last year? What's the most you pended in a month?
So realistically, the number would be 12, because I want to have 2 per month. And in order to catch up, I need 9 more by that time. And I'm relatively new, started on Stephanie's team in September. And I'm at 6 transactions total between realistically October until now.
Okay. So that's October, November, December, January, February, March. So 6 months. So you're at 1 a month.
Yeah. And I didn't really work in February. So.
Well, that's still, because this is and again, there's not and I don't mean, like, I'm not walking you through this to have you change that number necessarily,
Right.
Thinking it through. This is the other thing, that sometimes what happens is, in an attempt to catch up, we set something that it's almost like, okay, I would love to weigh 135 pounds. I would love to do it next month. I'm not willing to cut off both my legs and arms in order to get there, right? And so we want to also think the long game. It might be looking at, because again, this is for everybody, it might be, what can we do so that we're moving the needle now? And so we hit that goal. It might be that we're doing the compound effect and we're moving the needle this 3 months to get us closer. And then we're bridging the gap all the way in that next 12-week period, right? Because the big thing is, and when you start identifying the key action tactics, if you look at that and go, that literally means we need to put 6 under contract in March, 6 under contracts in April. To go from 1 to 6, do we have the infrastructure set up to do that, right? If the answer is yes, hey, great. But as you build out the tactics, be thinking about what that looks like. All right. So that's for everybody. As you look at what that goal is, are we creating a sprint, or are we going, this is the how we're going to win the marathon, that long game? Now 8:30 in the morning, something that's probably more of a tactic than a goal.
Okay.
Because what you're looking to utilize that to help you get the 12 transactions, right?
Right.
And then the goal around the team lead, what that looks like, I'm going to suggest that get with your team lead and go, what is the goal in the next 90 days? Because you're not, because, and again, just from, you know, kind of outsider in, we're not going to know everything and nail everything in 90 days. So what's the one thing that we really want to focus on that we can, that's a SMART goal, right? Specific, measurable, action, that whole piece. Okay. All right. So somebody else share, what is your goal?
Olivia, I think we've already talked about it a little bit as per our call. Our call. We talked about 24 listings, not necessarily closed, but 24 listings by then. 10 leads exclusively signed and in pending process for buyer's agent.
So the and piece, I'm gonna, and I will, if you'll come, when you come on, if you'll say who you are,
Okay.
what area you're in, because we do have new people on here and they may not know. So who you are, what area you're in, just real quick, in case we have referrals that we may have a possibility of sending. 24 listings, that's absolutely an end goal that we can measure. Give me what was the second piece of that one?
This is Deb Bisbeck from Lincoln, Nebraska, by the way. Would be 10 exclusive buyer's agency listings for my buyer's agent.
Okay. And so that's where I would stop. I wouldn't have that piece in there.
Okay.
Just 10 signed buyer agencies.
Okay. And then 20 pounds lost, which I think is very doable.
Okay. And so, and we want to, this is so with the goals, we're talking specific and measurable. We want to state each goal positively. So instead of lose 20 pounds, weigh X amount by the end of, and that's why I came over to this. So let's restate that as a positive. And you don't have to say that out loud on the call, but just on yours, let's restate that as a positive. And then the criteria 3, and I love what you said, I believe that can happen. Ensure that each goal is a realistic stretch for you, right? So that's the other thing. Now, we don't want it to be stretched so big that we've already defeated, right? But we do want to look at it and go, is it a realistic stretch? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Deb. Okay, who else?
I
Hey,
can go.
Olivia, this is Alex and Kitty Hawk.
Okay, we're going to go Alex and then we'll go Stephanie.
Oh, did I just step on somebody? They can go ahead.
Yeah, you're perfect. Go ahead.
This is Alex Argeroff from Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. I'm new to this and just started, and I want to make sure I'm looking at this properly. But for 12-week goal, what I put down was close 3.3 million per month. Do I have to multiply that out?
Yes. Yeah, we want the end goal.
Okay. All right. So I'll make that to a 12-month number.
Okay. Well,
And
not
then,
well.
I
So
mean, 12-week number.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. And then one listing per week
So 12 listings.
per the 12. Okay. So I'm doing this for a 12-week period. Got it.
Correct.
3 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. And those are specific, measurable, right? Now I would say the same thing, right? If you're experiencing, because I know recently you shared with me about a really, y'all close something in a week, but the big thing, if you're looking at closings, keep in mind that means that, because what we can bank on is that they've got to be under contract in the next 2 weeks. Now you're also walking into this 12 weeks with things that are pending. So between those, are we setting ourselves up so that we can have, that realistic stretch goal of hitting that 3.3? Okay.
Well, so far I'm ahead of that, but my concern is that it's like you said, some of that was listings that I've already had in place, contracts I've already had in place, and the biggest challenge is filling in the listings.
Okay. And so, and it may be, so yes, so that makes sense that we have 2 goals there. And then, yeah, perfect. All right. And then Stephanie,
Okay.
I have 30 closed this quarter, BMI down 9%. And then I'm on a 66-day communication habit with my husband. So just finishing that up.
okay. All right, perfect. So again, 30 closed, BMI, those are right. This is, I know where I want to be at the end of that. And so the same thing with that communication habit. Hey, I know where I want to be at the end of that, right? Perfect. All right, who's next?
I'll go.
Okay.
James Daisy from Duluth, Georgia. The goal is to weigh 208 pounds at the end of 3 months and sell close $1 million each month.
What sell how much each month?
1 million.
1 million. Okay.
Yeah.
So we want it to be sell 3 million, right?
Okay.
So we want to state at the end outcome. The other piece that I want to, and so I would ask you the question, sell meaning closed or meaning closed and under contract?
Closing and under contract.
Okay, perfect. So write it that way. Cause again, we want to be able to track that. And if sometimes we'll say something and then later we're like, wait a minute, how did we set that up? So being very tactical with the verbiage there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then at the, Donna, did you go? Are you my last one to go? I think you're on mute.
And I have not gone either, Olivia.
Okay, perfect.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's get Donna and then we'll come right to you. Go ahead.
When I went to okay, so my goals for the next 12 weeks is a repeat of listings taken 5, buyers taken 5, and the pending goal is to have another 5 as well.
Okay. Very clear. This is right. This is where we are. Now, one thing I'm gonna, Donna, because we've been coaching together for a while, you hit that 5 listings taken. How early did you hit that 5 listings taken for the first 12 weeks?
Early March.
Okay. So I'm going to suggest that you might choose, and you may not, but you might choose to realistic stretch a bit more because you've been doing the work, you've been making the calls, you're creating the pipeline already. So
Okay.
what would be a realistic stretch in those pieces? Okay. All right. And then we have one more person.
Yes, this is Jean Syracuse. I am from the Northern Virginia area, and I also have a practice in Sarasota, Florida. And I have 3 goals, 6 listings signed. I'm just saying signed because obviously they'll close very quickly because where we are in the market. So signed and closed if that's doable. 500 total database contacts. Right now I only have like 320. So
Okay.
add. I am diabetic, so I want my A1C, which is the one of the tests, below 5.6. And that involves losing weight as well, guys. So, and then 40,000 in closed GCI.
Okay. So that's 4 goals.
I know. Am I setting myself up for failure? Well, if I get the listings, I'll get the GCI.
Okay.
So
Then
probably
focus
second
on the listings because that's your lead domino.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. So we all have that.
Do you want me to go?
So I'm sorry.
Do you want me to go ahead and go on, Olivia?
Oh, yes. Yes, Jesse. I'm sorry. I didn't see you here. Go ahead.
So take 12 listings, hire a high school or college intern for my runner locally. And I don't know what my third goal is going to be.
And you may not have a third goal, right? Some of you may have 1, we won't really, less is more, right? So it's okay if it's just the two, or it's okay if you identify something later.
Yeah, because I'm evaluating. I don't know if doing a June bodybuilding competition is realistic in this market. So I got to talk to my trainer.
Okay. Okay. So 12 listings, hire a runner, and then we may have the bodybuilding piece in here as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, okay. So now that we have that, we want to get very tactical, right? So we have two pieces of goals. We've got the 12-week goal, right? That's where we want to be at the end of the 12 weeks. And then we have the weekly tactics. This is the how, right? This is the actions that we're going to take to accomplish the goal. These tactics will guide you each week and help you act. The way you write these is super important, because if they are well written, they're going to greatly increase your chances of hitting that goal. All right. Now, so how to, so now let's go ahead and go to the key actions. So your goal 1, go ahead and put that. So if I used, and again, if you're doing this on a sheet of paper, that's fine too. It does not have to be in this, this page. But if I'm going to write a goal, so if it was 12 listings taken or signed, I'm going to write that right there. Goal 1. And then what are the key action tactics, by who and when? So let's say, we'll kind of do this one all together. So if my goal, y'all just shout it out. If my goal is to do 12 listings signed, what's something that you feel like should be on my key actions or tactics? How am I going to accomplish that goal?
Database.
Okay. So maybe if it's the database, maybe I go DTD2 weekly, right? For do the database 2 weekly with, or in my database, contacts. And I would put when do weekly. Okay. What else? What's something else that I may do in order to get that goal?
We're doing a reverse bold 100.
Okay. All right. And then I would have by when, right? So for today, I'm just going to make it, I would think about it, look at it, and let's say I'm going to do it by May 1st. All right. What else could I do?
Can you track your dials? Like 1,500 dials per week per person?
Okay. So, yeah.
For sale by owner calls.
Okay. So if that's part of my business plan, I'm going to do contact 10 for sale owners per weekly, right? So y'all get the gist, right? What are the specific steps that we're going to take? So I'm going to go back over here to the sample because they very much, right? So achieve production of blank. Enter all prospects in a contact management system might be. Schedule, how many appointments do you need to schedule per week in order to do that? Conduct how many appointments, schedule what for prospecting, right? So that's what I want everybody to do. We're going to do on today's call, we're only going to do one of these. Pick the one that's the lead domino, right? What's the one that's the most important to you, that you're the most committed to, and go ahead and write what are the key action tactics and when do. And then I'm going to be quiet for a moment. But if you have questions, just raise your hand or just unmute and ask it.
Hi, Olivia.
Yes, sir.
This is Alex. For some reason, I thought this was like a 30-minute session. I am going to have to jump, but I think it's very, very helpful.
Okay, perfect. And just finish this piece out. One thing I will say, as you do this, for your homework, I want you to think, what are the barriers and challenges that could prevent this, so that you can start identifying what those pieces might be. Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot. And generally, do these run an hour or half an
Yeah,
hour? What's
typically
generally
an
an hour?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hey, thanks a lot. Bye,
Absolutely.
everybody. Great meeting you.
And I'm going to give you probably another 5 minutes to do this. If you have questions, put them in the chat box or raise your hand or unmute yourself. Any of those pieces will work. And as you get done, if you'll just type done in the chat box, I'll know, like, that way if it doesn't take you as long or if we need more time. All right, and just keep going. We've got 3 that are done, but we still got a few minutes. If you're done with the first one, feel free to go ahead and start brainstorming or thinking about, just like I shared with Alex, what are the barriers and challenges that might keep you from hitting that goal? All right, we're going to go about 1 more minute. All right. So if everybody will pause what you're doing. Now, granted, some of you may have went ahead and went to the next one, or maybe you're still working on your barriers and challenges, or you're still working on your first one. Either way, I just want you to pause in what you're doing. And I'm going to give a couple more pieces of instruction. This is a little bit different than what we have been doing on these group calls, and yet knowing that this is the time and we're all setting that 12-week, that 12-week year up, I thought this was going to be very valuable for us to be able to go, let's use this as a workshop piece. So go ahead, and if you haven't already, just write down the words barriers and challenges, because one of the things that I'm going to ask you do, if you haven't already had a chance to do that, is you're going to capture the 2 or 3 things that might keep you from hitting your goals. Consider internal and external factors, right? It might be, hey, I'm easily distracted. Squirrel, squirrel, right? It might be, I have a fear that I can't do it. It might be a lack of knowledge, right? Maybe I'm not sure. I wrote all the tactics down, but I'm not sure if those tactics will get me there, right? Maybe some of the external factors might be some competing priorities. Like maybe you have a vacation time scheduled during this next 12 weeks. Maybe you're short staffed, right? So, we want you to identify, right? What are some of those barriers or challenges? Once you've identified those barriers or challenges, I want you to write down what are some of the ways to overcome the challenges as you plan. So I'm going to be quiet for a couple minutes. Go ahead, and if you haven't already, write down your barriers and challenges, and then what are some of the ways that you could overcome those barriers and challenges? What are your resources? Who can you talk to? That type of thing. Go.
I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm working on the units closed, and one of the barriers are active clients taking time away. What would a resource be, like active clients taking time away from lead gen time? So what's a resource that I could utilize to overcome that?
So active client, you mean by
like buyers that want to go see houses all the time and
so that's always an interesting thing in our business, right? Because we are operating in some ways, right, on other people's schedules. So it's how do we, one resource could be counting the number of houses that you show. So if you're showing more than 3 to 5 houses before you write an offer, do we need to go back and revisit our buyer consultation and go, okay, are we setting it up with the right conversation, right? Are we coming back and revisiting their motivation? Can they buy in this market? That type of a thing. It might be, having conversations with buyers and sellers, letting them know, I'm already blocked for, in the mornings for appointments. It also could be in bold, we talk about erase and replace. And so often we forget about this, but one of the reasons that you want your schedule, and if you don't have a day planner, go buy one. You want to create your week, before it starts. So between Friday and Sunday, you're creating your entire week. If you have time block sections, so like, let's say you're going to lead generate from 8 to 12, and that's the only time they're coming in, right, that you can show them. Well, if you have a time block in the afternoon for an appointment for you just switch it. Now you show them that house and you lead generate in the afternoon. So erase and replace.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So those are a few resources, and that might be something that could kind of continue to brainstorm around what works for you. Okay. Okay. So does everybody have written down what could prevent you and ways to overcome that? Or any other questions around that piece? Okay, I'm going to say no. I think we're all good. Okay. Now, the next piece I want to look at is this is actually coming straight from the book. I'm going to share these common pitfalls, and then we're going to go to the next section. Now that we have the tactics, how do we keep them accountable? These are some pitfalls when we look at the 12-week year. Number one, not aligning with a longer term vision. So it's important that your 12-week goals and your plan are aligned with an extension of your longer term vision. So when you set your goals, be sure they're connected with that vision. Another pitfall is not staying focused. Focus is critical. If you establish too many goals, you end up with too many priorities and too many tactics to effectively execute. That's why less is more. Everything cannot be a priority. You will need to say no to some things in order to be great at the things that matter most. It takes courage to limit your focus to a few key areas. Now, remember, each 12 weeks is a new year. So imagine if every 12 weeks you identified one or two key areas and went after those with passion and focus. Then at the end of the 12-week period, you identified one or two new areas to focus on, right? So the 12-week year is designed to help you focus on a few key areas and make significant progress in a short period of time. Pitfall 3, not making the tough choices. For each goal, it's not uncommon to identify 8, 10, or more tactics or actions that you could take to move that ball down the field. In most cases, implementing every tactic you can think of is not necessary and, in fact, could be a hindrance. Although it's helpful to brainstorm all the tactics you can think of, it doesn't mean you have to implement them all, right? So keep that in mind too. Too many tactics can spread you too thin and leave you feeling overwhelmed. On the flip side, though, there is no right number of tactics. So as with your goals, less is more. If you can accomplish the goal with 4 tactics, then you don't need 5. Brainstorm all the tactics you can and then select the critical few. All right. And then tip 1, keep it simple. The task of planning can become very complex. So just what can we do to keep this simple and then making it meaningful? What you build your plan around must be the most important items, or the plan will have very little traction, okay, during that implementation phase. All right. So right now, what I'd like everybody to do is make sure that you've got some action items written down. Number 1, if you haven't, you're going to finish your tactics for goal 1. And then if you have other goals, finish the tactics for those other goals, right? That's your homework. Now, how does that show up during an everyday, and how are we going to utilize this? If you go across the bottom to the tab that says 12-week action plan and click on that, you'll end up looking at the same page that I'm looking at. And if you're not, unmute and say something or put it in the chat box. Okay. Most of you have either seen this, or maybe I've just shown it to you one time, right? Or some of you have already been utilizing this. What we want to do here is, what is our goal 1? So we would put, I'm going to use the example of 12 listings signed, right? Goal 2, whatever the end result is. Goal 3, whatever the end result is, right? You can just type that right in there. We'll we'll adjust the dates. So it's going to be April 3rd. And I'm not sure. So like, so April, I'm sorry, April 5th. It'll be April 5th because that's where we're going to start, to April 11th. Right? So think of it this way. You're still running the play that you've already called right now while we're planning for April 5th, right? That doesn't mean you can't start some of these things, and yet that's what we're doing right now. We're planning so that we can implement here. Now, something that you'll do, so if you noticed on your simple GPS, we said, I'm just going to use this as an example, DTD2 contacts that we're going to do it weekly. Track dials weekly. Well, then on my 12-week action plan, I'm going to have track dials because that's a weekly piece. I'm going to have contact database, DTD2, and I would probably go ahead and say whatever letters that is for the week, right? Be very specific. And then I'd have anything else that I said that I was going to do weekly or that's due that week that moves the ball further along to get that piece taken care of. Now, the cool part about this is at the end of every week, we're going to look and see what did we actually do? How did we move the ball? So we're keeping score basically. So if you notice, and I only put 2 things here, on the left-hand side, you're going to see a possible. I've got a possible of 2 points for the week. Well, let's say that I've got, I've got every time I add a line, I get the possible points go up. So this is my plan for the week. At the end of the week, I'm going to go, okay, how did I do? You know what? I tracked my dials, done. I get an actual point of 1. You know what? I contacted everybody in my database this week. So I'm going to put dash, done, no spaces, my actual 2. So I've got a week score of 40%. And then whatever week 3 was, I'm going to mark done. You know, if I did it, mark done. So let's say that I ended up I didn't get to the 5th one. So I've got an 80% score for the week. That's good. The cool part about the 12-week plan is we're not going to hit 100% every week. Like that would be all roses and amazing. And yet we don't have to hit 100% every week. We do want to make sure, are we getting to 80? Or maybe you create your tactics and that first week, I'll tell you, the first time I did this, I got a 40% score the first week. This isn't where we beat ourselves up. This is where we go, you know what? I was at 40%. What adjustments do I need to make this upcoming week so that I can increase it by 20%? Let me get to 80%, right? And the next week, what can I do to increase it, right? So that's where we're looking at moving that ball forward, okay? All right, now I'm going to pause really quick, and I want to hear from you guys. What are you learning? What's your aha? Heck, what's your question? Where did I lose you at? Let's get something from everybody. Who wants to start? Don't be shy.
Hi,
Hey.
I'm sharing the screen with Crystal. This is an aha. I like the way that you track it with the done and the numbers, because when you do the SMART plan, it is measurable. So this is good. Thank you.
Perfect. Love it. Trackable. It's so important. All right. Awesome. Who else?
Well, my big takeaway is the fact that you don't have to set too many goals. You can set a few attainable goals and achieve them in the next few months, and then start another 12-week year.
Yes.
Another
Yeah.
cycle.
Yeah, it's huge. But the more there's so often we get into that urgency. I got to get everything done, and then we don't really move the ball forward at all, or don't get anything done because we're bouncing. We're that star realtor. getting that very specific, because the thing is other things going to be going on besides these goals? Sure, you've got lives, you've got families, you've got all of these things, right? And this is the thing that we're going to, move the ball down the street, but it's not, but yes, perfect. Love that. All right. Who else is next?
My takeaway was I need to recreate this for my team, for everybody to have these spreadsheets, because it's very useful.
Yeah. And one of the things that I can do is or you can do that, file copy as and give everybody theirs. And then all the things are already all set up.
The one thing that I liked was the erase and replace.
Yes. We forget that that's an option. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Who's next?
Hi, it's Jane. I feel like a lot of my goals kind of feed on each other. So if I achieve one goal, just like combining the GCI with the listings.
Yeah.
So it's not as overwhelming.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what's the lead domino. When we focus on that, the other pieces take care of themselves. Love it. All right. Who else? Or who's next? Not who else. Everybody's going. Who's next? Donna?
I love this because it reminds me that I need to print it and just keep it in front of me all the time. And just have this as a constant reminder, not to just print this, do this exercise, and then put it away and look at it in 12 weeks. It really makes a difference.
Absolutely. And this is when you do this, and then, some people are visual, and like I said, you might print it and put it on the wall. The big piece is we talked about having your planner. Whatever those things are on this week, that means you've identified these are key important items. So pulling out your planner and scheduling them. Okay. When am I going to track my dials? How am I going to, what time am I going to contact my database? What do I need to do before that to make the calls for my database, right? Who else? If I've got an admin, what do they need to be doing to make that piece happen? So yeah, love that.
Olivia, it's Deb. Hey, if you see over here my posted notes, that's how I'm tracking right now. And so I am visual. There's not as many as I'd like to have up there. But the other thing I didn't mention is that I wanted to clean up paper space in here because it's taking up space in my head. And so I'm really concentrating on that as well, especially since I'm adding people to my group, and just having this sitting in front of me, even if it's on paper, I agree because I'm visual, it helps me really track where I'm going. And thank you for continuing to push me in a positive manner.
No, absolutely. My pleasure. But yeah, this is like, again, if you're visual, if you printed this off and put it on the wall, now granted, you'd have to then do your own points, but those are pretty simple, right? But yeah, so you can definitely do multiple things around this. All right. All right. Jessica Walker, I haven't heard from you.
I've just been staring at it. I kind of geek out over to-do lists, and I tend to put too much on them. And so I've had to really stop myself. And that was kind of my takeaway, is stop myself from putting too much on it and keeping it very focused.
Yes. Yes. Perfect. And I love what they talk about in the 12-week year, right? If you can do it in 4, they don't have a 5th step, right? Because sometimes we go, oh, but this will make it so much beautiful, or this, that. Well, is it necessary? That doesn't mean later we might, do this or do that, but for right now, is that necessary? I love that. Okay. All right. I'm trying to see who all, I might have to get my cyberbacker to help me out, but who is not going? I'm trying to go through. So Andrew, you're with us. What is your takeaway, questions, thoughts around this piece?
I came in a little late, but the main thing is that I think the 12-week year, the whole concept of it, is very helpful. So like you said, everything can be a priority. And sometimes it feels like, okay, everything needs to be a priority and I want to get everything done this year. But by having that option to make things something a priority for that 12-week period, and knowing that, okay, the next 12-week period, something else can be a focus. I think that's super helpful and a lot better than trying to focus on one thing for the whole year and committing to that one thing for the whole year.
Yeah. And the cool part, this also allows us to shift in the sense of, think about what happened last March, right? Who knew, right? COVID, we needed a pivot. Well, then you got to, oh my God, my whole 1 year plan, right? Now we're going to pivot. And so we can always make adjustments for in the moment, the market that we're in, taking all of that in consideration, and being very proactive. Love that. All right. And then Jesse.
Jesse Kern, Des Moines, Iowa. My cleaning people came early, so I didn't hear everything. I think for me, the takeaway, just being realistic about the barriers and limitations or challenges, and just identifying best practices to move past those.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times we forget there are barriers and challenges. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean we can't or we shouldn't. It just means, okay, how do we create something around that? Right. Sometimes it's who's my who, what needs to be moved, adjusted, etc. Right. Okay. Love it. Lovely. Is there anybody else that did not have an opportunity to share? I think we got everybody, maybe. Okay. All right. Now this is what, for a little while, this is what Thursdays are going to look like. Now, the difference is going to be, is we're going to break down some of these items. So on Thursdays, next Thursday, when you come to the call, have this, right, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to talk about done. We'll talk about what got in your way. We're going to learn from one another. Because there may be somebody that's crushing it with listings that you're going to pick something else up from. There may be somebody that's crushing with their under contracts, right? But we're going to pull this up and we're going to talk about it at least for a portion of these Thursday group calls. Now, y'all have either received an email and we will be sending out reminder emails. Keep in mind that So next Thursday, we have a call on April 1st. April 8th, we will not have a group call. I'm going to be out that week. I'm doing my 50 miler on April the 3rd, and I have no idea how my body's going to react to that. So we're not going to have individual calls that week, and we won't have a group coaching call on April the 8th. Otherwise, it's going to be the Thursdays. As you're putting this together, if you have questions, reach out, text me, call me, and then we'll just keep utilizing this to move forward so that we can track our progress. Okay. All right. Well, that is where we'll wrap. You guys have an amazing week. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.